What's up? So the other day on stream, me and some of my friends were talking about all the Final Fantasy XIV leaks that have come out, um, stuff, Endwalker class changes and stuff like that leaked. So we decided to have a discussion on it, and I figured I would upload that here just in case anybody wanted to hear some thoughts on all of it. The the Endwalker leaks as they pertain to games in general, things like that. We do get a little off topic, so I'm going to try and have timestamps down in the description. If you like this, be sure to like and subscribe. It would really mean a lot. Go ahead and comment. I'd love to see what other people think and how other people that play the game feel about the leaks and potential changes. Obviously, we're going to see the media tour information pretty soon, but it's still an interesting topic of conversation, and like to see what y'all have to say about it. If you want to see more stuff like this, then go check out my Twitch channel. I stream Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. Yeah, I hope you enjoy. Because I'm angry.
Why are you angry?
So over the last week or so, there's been a whole bunch of leaks out of the media tour that went out that still has an embargo. Job actions were leaked from Endwalker. We'll get to the specifics of the job actions later, because I think it's important first to talk about the leaks in general and the response that has been had from them, right?
Do you mean in terms of like the action of doing the leaks or the leaks themselves?
Leaking in general, right? So this is like, leaks are not a unique issue to Final Fantasy XIV, right?
Sure.
Genshin Impact has been having
the leaks are weird.
Yeah. So Genshin Impact has been having a ton of controversy with leaks over the last year, which is probably the biggest game that is dealing with it currently, right?
Yeah.
As a whole, I don't think leaks, it shouldn't happen, right? Information like that shouldn't be leaked out, and people that are doing it probably shouldn't be, right? Especially since you're being trusted with information and then you're betraying the trust of the people and the company that are giving it to you.
Well, so real quick, I want to address something.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the Final Fantasy XIV leaks, specifically this time, they happened through a third party. So someone was sharing something with their friend, and their friend went and posted that and leaked it.
That's still breaking NDA on the first person's part, whether it's your friend or not. You're not
very correct, but okay, but tell me, be very honest with me, because I've done this. You can't tell me that you wouldn't show at least one or two friends some of the stuff that you were close with and that you could trust.
See that? It comes to the point where we're talking about where we value and where we are morally, right? Personally, I wouldn't show it no one, like, because I take it seriously, because like I come from a different background.
That person, like, even if you assume everyone is going to do that, like, they still leaked it, so it's like clearly they didn't choose. Like, if everyone is going to show a couple people regardless, they clearly chose the wrong person.
Yeah, like when I
can vouch for Tenchi on this, because there was a point during one of the closed betas for some MMO. I don't remember if it was New World or if it was something else, but he would not give me information about it, about how he felt, because of his NDA. Right?
Yeah, like, and it's just it's a thing again that comes with like
coming after me legally.
Like, well, first off, you're being held accountable on your own sense, and there's some sort of weight to push in terms of like what you're doing it for. If you're doing it for a game, if you sign up, whether you're doing it either to gain more information or to be well with the developers or whatever, right? The reasoning to stay on an NDA is simply because it's the law and it's something that you signed and agreed to, some sort of like mutual thing where the company is giving you a chance to be able to get to know something or to everybody be ahead. In this case, it's just a thing that you have to do, right? I do it for work. I do it for like anything I need to
Even
do.
if you don't respect the company, there are still like negative consequences that are going to come back to you if you break the NDA.
Correct.
Mhm.
And it's also something that they do to help further the product or service that they're trying to do, right? And if you start breaking the NDA and start telling people, like, sure, like I know that it's tempting to be telling people, like your friends and stuff like that, because most people don't want to hold in a secret. And maybe oftentimes like it does, it's just fine, you know, and it just sometimes happens that it isn't. But the main thing is that you shouldn't have said anything in the first place, because it's pretty black and white. There's no real gray area. You were given multiple chances to say no, but you did it anyway. You know what I mean?
Now, like for me specifically, I cannot say with any amount of certainty that if it were me and I was invited to the media tour by Square-Enix for Endwalker, I cannot say with any certainty that I would not tell Alyssa everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That doesn't count.
Right?
I feel
but
like that doesn't
it
count.
does count.
Yeah,
it does.
Your spouse and family members that live with you generally are acceptable, especially if they're interested in the thing.
Having an NDA is different than like keeping a secret, but if somebody asks me to keep a secret, my boyfriend doesn't count.
Yeah.
Unless you specify.
And now, of course, in the legal speaking sense, yes, you're not supposed to share it with anybody, including your family.
But like,
at the same time, these NDAs they're not unenforceable, but like the worst thing they're gonna do is ban you off the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, to different extents, right? I mean, if in this case, yes, but in other cases, NDAs can be really harmful.
Sure, but those are usually NDAs from the employees and things like that, and people who have actual insider knowledge. This was literally someone posting details from job actions we already knew were coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, on the topic of these leaks, I think that a big reason, like these leaks illustrate, and the reaction from the community and the player base of the game, to me, illustrates an issue that this game has had since day one. Which is there needs to be a public test realm for this game.
I take issue with the player base's reaction to the leaks than to the actual leaks. There's this thing that is really, there's this like weird parasocial relationship that a lot of players have with the developers and specifically with Yoshida that makes me really uncomfortable. And to see people like white knight for the developers in a way that it's like to a degree that seems excessive. Like a lot of people, I actually got into, like Jara and I got into an argument on Twitter with a person like a couple months ago that was making a lot of excuses for like blatant issues with the game that have not been addressed for like 4+ years. And they were basically saying like the devs try really hard. If they tried to implement this, it would melt all of the servers. There's no way it could be fixable. We have to like worship them and just take anything they give us. And I'm like, you don't know them. They're not your friend. They're not your family. You don't know that person. You are buying products that they're making.
Alyssa, what are you crinkling?
No, it's me. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Alyssa.
The fact that people talk about the devs as if they are like friends is weird, I think. And I think that people are taking the leaks so much more like personally and getting so much more like up in arms and offended than they would be for any other game. It's like they're taking it as like a moral personal slight.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, dude.
I mean, they feel the same way about data mining, which is ridiculous.
I mean, like.
Well, and here I'm gonna be the one on the unpopular side here. I actually think that the leaks are a good thing, and I'm glad it happened.
Yeah,
oh, so am I. I think, like, as a general rule, I think leaks are like they're not conducive to like a positive environment for the developers and the relationship that they have with the community.
No.
In this instance, and in really any instance with this game in particular, I welcome leaks because it is the
things were leaked
only
this time
thing
was
that
for
it's the
taste,
only
but
time that
it's
we
like
ever get any
not-
foresight. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
So that I think that the way the leaks happened was like in poor taste, probably not the best way for it to happen, but it was still a good thing regardless. And the fact that a lot of players are acting like like the person who leaked the stuff like personally killed the dev's dog is a lot.
Yeah, I think definitely that we're in a, so leaks are bad in general, right? We understand that in general leaks aren't supposed to be happening, but the actual result of leaks ends up either benefiting either players, more information, and this necessarily wouldn't even be an issue if they were just more transparent or more up to date with their communications.
Yes.
And there you
if
go.
they had such a big media tour, you know, with a private thing, and it was like maybe a week before they would tell the general public, you know, I can understand, like, you know, even if you're gonna get it leaked, you know, kind of prevents people breaking the NDA have any like real worth.
Well, the embargo on the media tour lifts next week, right?
Yeah.
The reason that there's an embargo on it is so that way the chosen members of the community, namely the really big popular streamers, can go play the expansion a little bit, play around with the new class changes, look at all the job actions, take their pictures and recordings, and then have time to make and edit their videos in order to gain more views, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole reason for it. It's used as a tool to manipulate the audience. Because not everybody gets to do it. Only the chosen
like the
few.
Old school.
That is kind of annoying.
And
yeah,
it's
like
the
old
same
school,
chosen
like, press
few.
conferences.
It
This
is
happened at the Black Chocobo thing.
yes. It's the same list of people who are chosen by Square-Enix to who encourages the audience to give them more money, right? It's the same people, and a separate issue in the same vein is those people who are chosen 99% of the time do not have the community's interest at heart.
That's fair.
Because if they're asked, hey, like if Yoshida walked up to Mr. Happy and was like, hey, what do you think about these changes? I would bet all of the money that I have right now that Mr. Happy is going to look at Yoshida and be like, oh, they're great. 10 out of 10. This is the most amazing thing ever. Everyone's going to love it. Because he doesn't want to rock that boat. And I can't fault him for that, right? That's his...
I can. Fuck him.
But like, that's his livelihood, right? So like, I understand it to a degree, but at the same time, you're supposed to be representing your community. And if there's something wrong with it, with any of the changes, if there's something that's missing or something that needs to be done better and you say nothing, then you are doing a disservice to the people who are paying your bills.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of like the Cyberpunk fiasco where they were only doing like a YouTube thing where they were only promoting the footage that they gave them.
Yep.
And then footage about no console or nothing like that.
Yeah, it's the same level of dishonesty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you know, like they're gonna edit out any negative content or any negative comments that they had about the content or the class changes when they go post those videos.
Really?
And when I can only think of one content creator who has been invited by Square Enix to a media tour and interviewed Yoshida, who gave him a complaint, which was Xenos, who is a tank main, right?
Okay.
For the Shadowbringer media tour, he was invited, he played around with the stuff, he was given the chance to interview Yoshida, and he mentioned to Yoshida, to his face, that Living Dead needs to be fixed. Right?
Facts.
And Yoshida said... So Living Dead is the Dark Knight tank invulnerability, right?
Yeah.
You activate the move, you're given a buff for 10 seconds called Living Dead.
It's your oh shit button.
Yes. If within that 10 seconds you drop to 0 health points, you are instead left at 1 health point, and you are given a debuff called Walking Dead that lasts for 10 seconds. As long as you have that debuff, you cannot die. However, if at the end of that 10 seconds, you have not been healed for 100% of your health, you die.
And on top of that, you also have to get hit too.
Yeah,
So
like,
even
a
if you
lot of
get
people
fully
don't-
healed, but you don't get like hit by something after they've already healed you, then you're gonna die too.
Yeah.
So
Also, like, a lot of players don't know how Living Dead works. So, like,
That's true. That
they'll
really
heal you
explains.
they'll heal you to full too soon, and then the tank buster will hit you and you'll die. Or, like, they won't pay attention to when you have Walking Dead on and you need to be healed. Like,
or
up until
they'll
Gunbreaker was added,
benediction.
none of the other tanks had a downside to their thing. And, like, Superbolide still doesn't literally kill you.
Superbolide drops you to 1 health and then makes you immune to all damage, so you can heal yourself up a little bit with Aurora and Brutal Shell.
Yeah, it's like not all bad. Like, it does take you down to 1, which is like, I guess could be considered a downside. But like, Dark Knights, if you're playing solo, you can't
use
your
it.
invuln at
If you're
all.
playing, like, Warriors is the closest, and like to Dark Knights, where Holmgang will not let you fall below 1 health for the duration.
And, like,
But Warrior
Holmgang used
has
to kind of
30
have a downside.
Warrior has 30,000 ways to heal themselves.
Like, Warriors Holmgang kind of used to have a downside where it would chain you in place, and like that could just straight up get you killed a lot. Like,
Yep.
getting stuck in place got me killed so many times, but they took it away and now it's fine. And Dark Knight
Yeah,
is
they
still
took it
kind of
away,
fucked.
and now it also is a knockback invuln.
I have to go. My break is over, so I have to go back to work. If you guys are still in this call when I'm on my lunch, I will come back. But for now, I'm gonna peace out.
Okay, thanks for joining
It
in.
was good talking to you.
Bye.
So, Xenos told Yoshida that Living Dead needed to be changed because it is not conducive to a positive play environment, right? The only healer that can reliably get a Dark Knight out is White Mage with Benediction, which is a full heal. But they have to know the fight. They have to pay attention to Living Dead. They have to know, like, when to Benediction. Because if they do it too soon, then you are going to keep taking more damage, and that kind of wastes the cooldown, right?
Yeah.
The optimum way that you would use Living Dead is you would use it, get hit by the tank buster, keep Walking Dead on for the next 9 seconds, and then get full healed, and then you've negated 9 seconds of damage, right? The way that it's often used is as soon as it pops, the White Mage hits the button if they didn't burn it on a DPS, and then you go back to taking damage and the invuln did nothing. Or if you don't have a White Mage, let's say you have Scholar Astro, you have to hope that they have all of their cooldowns available to heal you out of that deficit, because healing 250,000 health in 10 seconds is resource demanding, and that's not fair to your healers, whereas the other 3 tanks don't need that. 2 of them just flat don't take damage, and Warrior can full heal itself, to the point where when E8S was a thing, Warriors could tank that fight and never need to be healed.
I will say, I like running with you as a Dark Knight because you yell at me for the Benny.
I do. Exactly. Jay is right in the chat. You have to hope that the Scholar didn't waste literally everything on DPS, which is a separate issue. Like, if DPS are dying, then there's less resources to go around to everybody else. But Dark Knight demands those resources.
But the point being, like, again, back to like kind of the main topic is that, you know, he was fighting for something in terms of, or rather, he was critical in front of his face, essentially.
And Yoshida looked at him and said, "Nope, we're not going to change it because that's class identity." So even when legitimate complaints are brought to Square Enix by one of the people that they have invited there to give them complaints so that way they can fix it, they say no.
I mean, but what do you expect, though? Like the ARR, like the whole thing whenever they announced the end of 1.0 and that they were going to be rebuilding the game, like they said that they were going to start taking like user input and player input more seriously. And they did for the initial release of ARR closed beta.
Yeah.
And then
once
they stopped.
Once
and
the
now
game
it's
went
been
live,
pandering.
they didn't. Exactly.
Yeah, it's now just been pandering. And that's I think honestly that's a big reason we don't get the PTR.
Which is why the
do you
leaks
think
are
like they just like
important.
don't want to put a PTR for negative comments to like not enter essentially?
That's essentially, yeah. Square Enix has always been in this. They've done this since Final Fantasy XI. They've always been of the mind of they control the media narrative.
Yeah.
So if they can control the perception, they can continue boosting their revenue.
Yep.
Like, it's what it comes down to at the end of the day if it's a company.
Yeah.
But no, Final Fantasy XI, like there were points in time where the player base didn't actually know how to do stuff, and they gave no help.
Mm-hmm.
I remember back.
I mean, what was it? What was the boss?
Absolute Virtue.
Yeah. Absolute Virtue was literally unbeatable, and then the GMs were like, "Watch us do it," using 2 hours every minute.
And they wiped. They had to reset the fight because the GMs friggin' wiped. Like they had to turn on God mode to finish the fight.
They were cheating
to
show the player base how to do it. It's like, yeah, you can beat it, just cheat.
Yeah. And like so back whenever, I think this is in high school, middle school or high school, whenever I was playing it, and a friend of mine was actually on the raid team on the server I was on that was working on the strategy, and it took them a full 72 hours essentially swapping shifts every 12 to beat it. And these are full 24-man alliances.
So Jay brings up another point that I wanted to talk about, which is the topic of class identity.
Oh, man.
So back in A Realm Reborn, all the classes did different things, right?
They all felt different. They played different.
They had distinct differences. Heavensward comes out, classes all still feel different, right? They all do different things. They all serve different purposes, right? What's the difference between Dark Knight and Warrior in the way that they play?
I don't play either of those classes.
I only play Dark Knight, so I don't know.
I mean, like Warrior has like different AoEs. You know, the Codal that's in front of you, whereas Dark Knights are both around you. But like that's like the only thing I could really think of is like their AoE skills are the only thing that separates them between Dark Knight and Warrior.
And even then, Warrior's second, most of Warrior's AoEs are full circles.
Yeah, the only one that isn't is your starting
Overpower.
one.
Yeah. Overpower is a cone, and then all like Steel Cyclone and Decimate are both circles, just like Quietus. Warrior has Inner Release, which lets them use Fell Cleave up to 5 times currently. Dark Knight has Delirium, which lets them use Blood Spiller up to 5 times currently. It's the same move, right? They do the same thing. They have the same cooldown. They serve the same purpose. With very few there are 2 differences between those classes outside of how much damage they do, right? Because Warrior has all the same things, but they're direct crits, right? Dark Knight has a shield instead of a damage mitigation. Like instead of like a percentage mitigation, it puts a shield on itself. And that's the biggest one from a play perspective, how you're going to actually play the class in endgame content, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not a class identity.
No, it's role identity now. It was class identity back in ARR and Heavensward, but around the time Stormblood came around, we started seeing role identity over class identity.
Like Square-Enix is very overtly stripping class identity away from classes, and I think this is probably most evident with Astrologian, right? Astro had a very distinct class identity in Heavensward when it came out, of using its cards to do completely different things depending on what card you drew and what situations arose, of using time magic spells to manipulate durations of buffs to suit the needs of who the buff was on. And they have been taking that away slowly over time.
I think it's definitely something where, like, I wasn't really aware of it all.
In Heaven's Ward, so right now Astrologian is a flex healer, right? It has two stances. It can either be a regen healer or a shield healer. They're taking that away. It's now white mage.
Really?
Yes, they're taking it away. Astrologian's only going to be white mage, so much so that Astrologian is getting an ability that is an AoE heal and damage spell, much like a size, which is the thing that Astrologian didn't have that white mage has.
Do you think that you just like place the identity onto it?
That's why I said it's a role identity.
Yeah, Astrologian is no longer Astrologian. It is pure healer.
It definitely feels like what they're saying when they're saying class identity. It really sounds like just the one ability that maybe makes that class.
Well,
and then it just kind of spread it around.
So class identity is definitely a reference to when ARR first released. If you grabbed let's say white mage and scholar, completely totally different classes to play. Not even similar play styles, but they're both healers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same thing with Dragoon and Monk, which I did both play in ARR, just not very long. Dragoon had a completely different play style than Monk did. It was a little bit slower. Like, that's where that comes from. But over time, especially in Shadowbringers, and I've noticed this a lot in Shadowbringers, they've started removing that class identity and then overlapping role identity over it instead. And I think a lot of this is attributed to them wanting to make the game more widely playable. Well, I want to play this class, but I can't figure out how to actually play this class because, like, it doesn't suit me. Well, so instead of that, it's going to be, well, I want to play this type of class and I can do this.
Yeah, they're like, Jay brought this up in chat. In trying to make the game simple, they took away what made each class unique, right? Every class needs to be so simple that anybody can pick it up and immediately understand how to play it, right? If they can't do it, if they can't click Black Mage for the first time and be like, this is what I do with Black Mage, then they have failed in their mission, which in turn just makes every class play the same way. All the melee DPS are going to play the same. All the casters are going to play the same. All the tanks are going to play the same. Well, sort of. The difference between Gunbreaker and Paladin is smaller than the difference between Gunbreaker and Warrior, right? Like, they said that they want
kicked offline.
I did. I forgot that they re-implemented that.
I told you to move your camera.
That's fair.
Good job.
I mean, we're still here. When Shadowbringers came out, they said that they wanted to get rid of the idea of some classes being built better for off tank and some classes being built better for main tank, right?
Well, sure. And that makes sense.
But they didn't really do that, right? Like, I mean, they did. Anybody can main tank, anybody can off tank, which is cool. That's fine.
Yeah, but warriors are still like your best main tank.
I mean, because they can heal forever, right? And Paladin has more tools to off tank because they can mitigate everybody else however much they need to, which is something that all of the tanks are getting, including Paladin. Paladin's getting a second intervention, and every tank is getting intervention. Except every tank's intervention is better than Dark Knight's intervention, including regular intervention.
Wow.
Which is a separate issue. But, like, the way that Paladin and Gunbreaker play is so similar, and the way that Warrior and Dark Knight play is so similar, why have 4 tanks? Why not just have 2? Because from a gameplay perspective, there isn't a difference.
Yeah, I think that definitely comes into a point where they need to like evolve beyond like what's just like another role or another class. I mean, again,
Well,
it comes.
and
I think it would even open up newer roles, maybe, because like.
well, that's the thing though, is that it won't. What you're seeing now is the culmination of years and years and years of them simplifying it.
Yeah.
I mean, they almost did have another role, which was support, and that was what Bard was, and then they took that away.
Yeah, because as history has shown, the majority of the player base does not enjoy needing support jobs because my damage.
Yeah,
that's fair.
But like
Bard, because they see
Bard was
anything
mandatory.
Yeah, but okay, but here's the thing though, is people didn't like that. I don't like that I have to find a Bard.
But that's the problem. It didn't actually change, because if you're doing Savage, you need 2 melee DPS, 1 physical range DPS, and 1 caster DPS.
Well, you have plenty of choices. You could take a Bard, you could take a Machinist.
But why not make Bard, Machinist, and Dancer all supports? And just be like, you need 2 tanks, 2 healers, 1 support, 1 caster, 2 melee.
I think we're kind of getting away from everything, because like even if we do start separating them right now, I think the main thing is that we need to feel that the classes themselves feel a little bit more unique, even if they remained in the same like roles that they're doing as a tank, healer, or DPS.
Yeah.
If they would be able to make at least the character or the class itself more visually different, maybe different animations, it would at least help you feel like you are playing something else. You know what I mean? If they're not willing to change the roles.
The thing is, though, is I don't think we're going to see that, because in Square Enix's eyes, that would be a regression to a system that they already used and are moving away from.
Yes.
See, like Mike brought this up before, where we tried to get a separation between main tank and off tank, but they wouldn't give that to us. Yet we're getting a separation between pure healers and shield healers.
To the point where if you're using Party Finder to
you can
queue
separate
for
those
Savage,
two out.
you have to separate them. You have to have 1 pure healer and 1 shield healer. You cannot go into Savage with a White Mage and an Astro.
Yeah, now or after in Endwalker.
Yep.
But like you could do that now, because like for one, like Astral Legend still has that ability to switch between the two.
Yeah.
And Scholar still has skills that they can actually heal you with and not just throw shields on you, but we can't do that with tanks, but we can do it with healers.
Yeah, and I said, the healers have a history of getting shit on. I know this as being a White Mage main from 2.0. White Mage didn't get their real big buff until Shadowbringers.
Yep.
So before that, we basically got shat on every single expansion.
Yeah. To the point where they had to rework lilies like 4 times during Stormblood because no one understood how they were supposed to work.
Yeah.
It actively encouraged you to waste mana because you needed to gain lilies. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think it definitely has to do something with that. I mean, obviously, like, speaking from, like, you know, knowing that they're not probably going to do any of these things, it would still be a nice way to maybe, like, get these, I don't know, I guess potential solutions. I mean, honestly, even then, like, some of the stuff we've said doesn't feel like it would be a great solution, but, you know, it's the process of trying to even find something that would help, you know, the player base of the community. And it comes again with the leaks, right?
Yeah.
So, like, are the leaks
it's
really
an issue of transparency?
Exactly.
If the leaks are what we're going to get in Endwalker, there are real problems.
Yeah, I feel like to that particular point, the best solution would be even a temporary PTR without any of the Endwalker content that allows you to actually just go and play with the skills.
You know, I think that's a lot better too. Thinking about it, even if they just had like a training room map and you just play the jobs, you know,
and they have the training room maps already made. We've seen them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, if they were able to just use those like assets that they have and all that stuff, and just make it so they don't have to show any of the story. It's just purely job related.
Yeah, just so that way, people can go onto the test realm and play with the abilities and give feedback.
Build it into the benchmark. Give the benchmark an updater and build it into the benchmark.
Right?
Like, the best thing they could add is just a feedback system implemented in that PTR thing, so that they could at least manage some sort of like way to receive I don't know, I guess commentary.
Well, look at on WoW. Anytime you're on the PTR in your main menu, you've got this big button: report issue, make suggestion, or whatever it says.
Yeah.
Or report bug.
And
like that's like a. I don't ever think we'll ever see a PTR, and I
don't either.
I say this simply because I say it simply because of playing 11 for so long and knowing that they never intended to ever do anything like that for 11. We didn't know what we were getting in 11 until they told us. There was no media tours, there are no media previews, none of that.
Mm-hmm.
We got a little bit here and there whenever they would do announcements, and then we would get what we got in the expansion.
Yeah.
And they've kept that lid on it for so long.
To the point where they made it against the terms of service to data mine.
Oh shit, no way.
It's against the terms of service to go through the files on your computer that
no
you own.
Way.
Yes, you cannot go through the system file, like the files for the game that you bought on the computer that you own without breaking TOS.
To be fair, that was the same thing in Final Fantasy XI, because you could do DAT swaps in Final Fantasy XI that's similar to the other stuff that can be done with 14. And
but
like,
it's just the point that it's there.
It's unenforceable, right?
It's like
it's only enforceable if you're done.
I mean, yeah, but even then, terms of service is non-binding.
But it's binding to your character. And I'm sorry, if you're modding a game or you're data mining a game, you're invested enough that you want to keep your account.
I mean, yeah, but no one ever stopped data mining.
No, absolutely not. Because we just don't.
You own those files. That's your property.
Yeah.
They're making it against the rules to look at your property.
Well, and I'm sure part of that thing in the toss is because sometimes they'll ship some assets and stuff with updates before the next update. Stuff that they
still do. It hits Reddit all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
But like, they got smart and kept like critical information out, right? Like, we'll get, whatever the next Mog Station item is, or all the mounts and minions, but not necessarily where to get them, right? We won't get story content. We won't get names of NPCs.
You'll just get like models and like possible maps or something like that.
No, it's just the stuff they have to stuff in the database before they can use it.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the Alexander mount. We had no idea how we were going to get that, what it even was or anything. And then it was it last month that they finally announced it, and it ended up being a box station item?
Yeah.
But we knew it existed. We just didn't know how it existed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm listening, but I'm going to be right back.
Yeah, go for it. But like, there needs to be more transparency from the developers, right? They need to tell us what we're getting before it's under a month away from the big expansion, the end of the story, and then people that are playing the game and actively paying for it look at the leaks and are like, these changes are terrible. Why? And they're like, oh, too late to fix it. Sorry, maybe it'll get patched. It won't. It'll never get patched. This is your class. Enjoy it. If you're miserable, go play a different game.
I'm coming back quickly to say that's actually what I'm doing. I talked to Neoma, and her and I are going to start playing Final Fantasy XI the day that Endwalker releases.
Like, I'm going to play Endwalker. I'm going to do the story because it's 6.0 is the end of the story.
I'll do the story
right?
later, but I'm not going to play at launch.
But like,
I'm specifically going to wait 6 months or something.
I don't know if I'm going to keep playing after that. And I've played this game since 2011, right?
Yeah.
It's been 10 years. I've played this game for a decade. I don't know if I'm going to keep playing after 6.0 and the story wrap up, because I'm sick and tired of Square-Enix and like the lack of transparency and their uneven distribution of abilities to jobs.
Yeah.
Well,
remember, Dark Knight's a polished class according to Yoshi P.
Yeah, Dark Knight is the most well-made class in the game, so it didn't need any changes.
and that's the thing,
because
though,
it's like we totally got changes when Dark Knight was the main warrior of light in the current expansion.
Yeah, just like Monk did. Oh wait, it took 4 years for Monk to get any sort of changes.
Okay.
And it got a
Monk
complete
got
rework,
changes
and it's
in-
getting another complete rework.
Yeah, in Stormblood.
No. Monk was unplayable in Stormblood. In Shadowbringer, Monk got completely reworked because no one could play it. No one played it.
Oh.
It was a broken class, and they reworked the whole thing. And they're doing it again in Endwalker.
I don't know. My interest in 14's been waning for a while, and a lot of it's because they've taken it from being a game and turned it into a carnival.
I mean, that's a separate issue, right? The issue of theme park MMOs versus MMOs.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, I'd rather play a dark MMO that's like with a badly translated story than 14 at this point.
Which is fair. The game isn't doing anything for you. Like, I can only get excited about reference so many times, right? And the excitement for reference really wanes when the classes that I enjoy playing are consistently ignored. And the real problems with the things like the classes I enjoy are declared to be how it's supposed to be. Nobody wants to hear that, right? Like,
Well,
it was
because...
it's the same way that, like, the problem that white mages had for, 6 years is the same thing that's happening to scholars, is the same thing that's happening to dark knights, is the same thing. It's the inverse problem that's happening to astrologian, where they're just getting their class ripped away from them.
Ast is honestly like the great casualty of all this. Ast is nothing but it will not be nothing but a shade of its former glory. Yeah, I can't even switch to the class anymore. Like, I'm so depressed when I do.
Like, Dark Knight and Scholar are unique in that, according to the leaks, they're just not getting anything, right? Astrologian is actively losing half of its class.
Yeah, it really sucks. I started playing Astrology, and it was probably the only way that I wanted to heal, because it was just so fun to be able to do different techniques and combos and stuff like that.
I mean, you keep your cards.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but
even then, the cards are completely different than how they used to be. It used to be every card did a completely different thing. Now and there was only one card that was a damage increase. Now every card is a damage increase.
Yeah.
So they took the class identity away, right? They took away the uniqueness of the cards in order to make it easier. And then they took away the time magic abilities in order to make it easier. And now they're taking away one of the stances in order to make it easier. And all of the things that made Astrologian unique are gone. The only thing that separates it from White Mage is particle effects.
Yeah.
That's not a class identity. You just made White Mage again. But it'll do less damage, so White Mage is different. Hell, even White Mages losing their class identity to Scholar. White Mages are notorious for never actually healing and only casting DPS spells. And now Scholar is a healer that's coming out that heals somebody by casting damage spell. Yeah, Sage. Sage is just White Mage.
And on top of that, they're making it so where any offensive skills for healers has a cast time of 1.5 seconds. So you're going to be damaging faster than you can heal unless you're somebody who has that high spell speed to even it out.
Or you're a sage and
doesn't matter.
You doing damage heals the main tank.
Damn. It's crazy.
And I'm sure that some Sage players will still figure out a way to fuck that up and not heal.
Seems like what Jay was saying, the extreme uniqueness of Astral Legend, like between the cards and the different stances and everything, is what made me push off leveling it so much, to the point where I forgot that they had even made all the changes where it didn't matter about the cards and stuff like that, because it was such a unique class. It was completely different from White Mage and Scholar, that like it was a whole new beast to learn, which would have made it fun to do in, like, you know, Shadowbringer, Stormblood, and Heavensward. But now that it's becoming White Mage, like, why not just learn White Mage to begin with?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's the same way that I feel about Dark Knight. Why would I play a worse version of Warrior when I could just play Warrior? Because that's what Dark Knight is, right? It's just Warrior with less tools. It's Warrior with...
It comes down to, like, aesthetics. Like, some people don't like the way that Warrior looks. Some people don't like the way that Dark Knight looks. But, like...
Like, I like Big Sword, right? Big Sword looks cool. But they do the same thing. Big Sword isn't enough to make me want to play something that is just less good. Right? Like, yeah, TBN's great. It's a shield equal to 25% of my maximum HP. That's huge. Fantastic defensive cooldown. Warrior can full heal itself every 45 seconds.
And Abyssal doesn't even give you enough HP to make a difference when you use it to heal yourself.
And you can only use it once a minute. The changes that are coming to Delirium and Inner Release make it so you activate the move, right? So you activate Delirium or you activate Inner Release. Both are on a 60-second timer, right? You gain 3 stacks, and none of this is leaked. This is all officially announced information. It was in the live letter. Mm-hmm. You gain 3 stacks of the buff. Each use for Warrior, Fell Cleaver Decimate, and for Dark Knight, Blood Spiller or Quietus consumes 1 stack. So you can only do them 3 times instead of right now the default minimum being 4 times. So they're taking 1 use away.
Yeah.
Right? But it's a 60-second cooldown, so you get more uses over the course of a fight. Fine. Warriors are guaranteed direct crits. Under Inner Release, every ability is a guaranteed direct crit, so they do more damage. Also, under Inner Release, Warrior is immune to all forms of knockback. Dark Knight doesn't get either of those. Dark Knight doesn't get anything extra except for the ability to use the move.
Salted Earth?
No, they get to use Blood Spiller or Quietus, right? Now, at the end of Inner Release, going into Endwalker, Warrior gets to use their big level 80 ability, which is a gap closer, a direct crit, and has 700 potency. So it's big damage AoE gap closer that you can only use after you've done your Fell Cleaves, right?
Yeah.
Dark Knight doesn't get anything.
Yeah, it really sucks how they're
Dark
just
Knight's,
trapped in just different classes like that.
Dark Knight's new AoE that they're getting can only be used under the effect of Salted Earth, which is a 90-second cooldown right now, and will continue to be a 90-second cooldown in Endwalker.
Wow.
The AoE is instant. It's 500 potency. It has 0 damage fall off for multiple targets, but it only affects things that are within Salted Earth. And you're like, okay, but I can just keep using that while Salted Earth is active. So for 15 seconds, every 2.5 seconds, I get to use the move. Nope, because it has a 15-second cooldown. So you can use it once. So the new AoE that Dark Knight gets can be used once every 90 seconds. Conversely, the new AoE that Warrior gets that they use at the end of Inner Release can be used every 60 seconds. So what is the move for?
on top of that, you can't put Salted Earth where you want to anymore, because apparently macroing it to be on top of you was too big of an issue for certain Dark Knights. So let's take away the Dark Knight's uptime, where, you know, like, for instance, the other day when I was in Pagos, I was able to put my Salted Earth down where all my mobs were and run away real quick out of the AoEs and still be able to do that damage. But with how it's going to work in Endwalker, I can't do that anymore.
Nope.
I either have to stand in there and take the AoEs or lose some uptime.
Yeah. It's a direct nerf to the ability.
Or like, you know, Diamond Extreme, when you're doing Light or Flood Ray, you could put your Salted Earth down while you're standing on your corner, and you're still doing damage to the boss that actually makes a difference, as opposed to just using on Mend all the time.
Yep. But this is a good change that everybody is happy about. This is good. This is not a nerf. They're removing functionality from the ability, so by definition, it is a nerf. But it's fine. It's great. Why would anybody be upset? You look at Paladin. Paladin's new move that they're getting is Continuation. You use Requiescat, which now doesn't do more damage the more mana you have. It always does max damage. You do your spell abilities. You finish it with your with Confiteor, and then you get a whole new weapon combo that comes out of Confiteor. Each one is a massive AoE that does a bunch of damage. It's Continuation, right? Albeit less frequently, sort of. But it's a continuation combo, bringing Paladin closer to Gunbreaker. All 4 tanks are getting a new low-ish cooldown defensive ability that they can put on themselves or a party member, right? Dark Knights is a 10% damage mitigation. That's it. Warriors is damage mitigation, regen, and a shield. Paladins is damage mitigation and a regen. Gunbreakers is damage mitigation, regen, and a shield.
What the heck? That's such a lame ability.
Dark Knights is
that
10% damage mitigation. So how is that balance? How is that class balance? And like, that's just tanks. That's not even talking about healers, and how one of Scholar's few new moves that they're getting between 80 and 90 is a combat peloton.
Oh, the extra go speed.
It's just combat peloton.
So bad.
That's it.
Man.
Ain't no party like a Moogle party, because a Moogle party don't stop.
Hearing all this, because like me still coming into it, like not really knowing much of it, not really being here for like the older content. I'm still just seeing like, you know, the classes being different. I mean, I'm usually only playing like 3 classes, right?
Yeah.
But you know, expanding mine recently, it's opened my eyes to a lot of different like things that they have, but they all still felt really easy to get into because they were all so similar. You know, there was like a role you have to do, and you just do that, and that's it. I didn't really think about the necessary like, you know, moves or combos that they have or whatever. But you know, again, hearing all this is like kind of eye-opening to like kind of like how similar these things are, and it makes me question like whether or not more people don't know about this change, or like this lack of change, and if that's further boosting the reason that there isn't any change, because so many new people are just kind of, you know, not aware.
Like, I'm okay with class similarity, right? Every class having AoE combos and single target combos, and those being fairly similar between melee classes, you know, your tanks and your melee DPS and your like all of your range DPS, physical DPS, and your casters having similar tools is fine. But there needs to be tools that are different, and the tools that are similar have to be similar enough to where one class isn't blatantly doing less with the same ability. Because that ultimately dictates what jobs get played. If the only reason to pick one job over another is a single ability, like if you were to make like a pro-con list, right?
Yeah.
And the only pro for why, like we'll do Dark Knight and Warrior because those are incredibly similar classes to the point where I can show you all the abilities and how they're the same actively right now on stream. But like, if the only reason that you would pick a Dark Knight over a Warrior is TBN, right? But the reasons that you would pick Warrior over a Dark Knight are they offer a full party-wide shield that is the same size of TBN, just on a longer cooldown, and uses a lot of resources. They have more self-healing, which means that they have less demand to be healed by the healers, so the healers can do more damage, which increases your time to kill, or which lowers your time to kill. They have more raw damage output, which lowers your time to kill. Why would you pick Dark Knight over Warrior? Because you only have 2 tank slots.
Yeah.
And if one of them is taken by Paladin or Gunbreaker, which it most likely will be because they have the highest DPS between the 4 tanks, and very good mitigation options between the 2 of them, right? They have tank invulns. There are strategies that can only be done with Paladin Gunbreaker because they become immune to damage and therefore immune to debuffs that would be caused by the damage, right? So you have 1 slot left. You're picking Warrior, right?
Yeah.
Because they offer more than Dark Knight. It's the same reason that people have been saying since Sage was announced that you'll never see another Scholar, because why would anybody play Scholar when Sage does the same job but does more? Yeah, there's similarities between the 2, right? But the thing that makes Scholar unique is its fairy. But the fairy has to be told when to heal, which is your off globals. Okay, that's fine. It acts independently, it has Embrace. But Embrace has been nerfed over the course of this current expansion to the point where that heal does nothing. My 3rd hit in my combo, Soul Eater, heals for more than Scholar's Fairy heals by itself. So that's not a reason to pick Scholar over Sage. Sage can do all the healing, but they can keep doing damage at the same time. And they have all the shields for mitigation. So why would you pick it?
Yeah. I mean,
and then
it goes to that time.
The erasure of class identity isn't unique to Scholar or to healers and tanks either. It's happening to melee DPS as well. And I brought this up when I watched the Job Action trailer. Monk's new big move is just Ninja. They just become Ninja.
Like that whole combo that makes Ninja is being given to Monk as their own combo.
Granted, less frequently, right? Sort of. Because you have to be under the effect of perfect balance in order to use your blitzes. But what's the cooldown on perfect balance currently, right? Let's see. Where's perfect balance? Fuck, I don't even know where I have it. I don't remember what it looks like. Perfect balance's cooldown is... here it is. So it's a 90-second cooldown right now, lasts for 15 seconds. Monk has a 2-second global cooldown, so you get 2 full combos under perfect balance? No, more than that.
And also don't forget
3.
that they're changing all the cooldowns, well, most of the cooldowns to either be 60 seconds or 120 seconds. So that perfect balance could be dropped down to 60 seconds instead of it being 90.
But you get, in that 15 seconds, you can do 2 full combos, which means you're doing 2 full blitzes, right? You're doing 2 ninjutsu, because that's how they work. You activate perfect balance, And then each action that you do under perfect balance gives you a seal. When you have 3 seals, you activate a blitz. The blitz is different based on the combination of seals that you have. Well, let's look at ninja. You have your ninjutsu button. That does a different thing based on the combination of the mudras that you use when you activate it. That sounds the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
the skills even kind of look kind of similar to the individual ninjutsus that ninja has.
The sad thing is, Monk has only kept its uniqueness in the sense of being a fist weapon rather than some sort of blade. Yeah, it has stances, the forms still exist, but those forms are the only thing keeping it Monk at this point. They're removing the stances.
Really?
From what I've heard, this is a rumor. I don't know if this was leaked, but from what I've heard being rumored, the Monk stances are becoming traits. I think it might have been in the live letter. I don't remember.
What would that mean? So it's just like applied automatically?
Real quick.
Yeah, kind of like Dragoon with Blood of the Dragon. It's going to become a trait that just turns on automatically.
Wow.
I mean, I'm not completely against that because I don't know how they get.
I think that's a good change for Dragoon. I think out of all of the melee DPS that are currently in the game, Dragoon and Samurai are getting fucked the least. Like, Samurai gets bigger Madare Setsugeka, and Dragoon gets an easier time doing its stuff.
Okay, so
I'm sure that Monk and Ninja will be fine. Like, from a play perspective, I'm sure they'll both be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Monk is also losing some of its its positional requirements, which is a good change.
Because aren't they like one of the few that still have
They have
positionals?
They have 6. Every move they have is a different positional.
Yeah.
And they're removing them. Not all of them, but they're removing, I think, half of them. Or they're only going to have 2. They're only going to have 2. I mean, melee DPS have 2 to 3, right? Like positionals they have to hit. Except Dragoon. Dragoon technically has 4, but like not really. But like they do, but not really. But they do, but not really. But they do.
From what it says in the recap is that the system of gaining stacks of grease lightning is going to be discontinued, and I actually don't see anything about the stances going away.
Okay, then that might have just been a thing that I heard that was rumored.
Oh, and they get the cool gap closer that like
doesn't do damage, but you can. That gap closer looks sick as fuck. It doesn't do damage, but you can go to an ally or an enemy.
Like,
it looks super fucking cool. It looks cooler than literally everything Dark Knight has. It looks so
the fact
dope.
That, like, it's also something that's targetable. Like, why haven't we still made ninjas targetable?
Oh, they have a targetable gap closer now.
Like,
they are getting
the
one
that you have to like.
You have to use Raiton first.
Your level 80 skill, yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, make my like 2 charge 1 targetable instead of me having to like hope that I could place it down close enough to the enemy that I need to go attack.
Speaking of 2 charges, the other tanks are getting 3 charges of their gap closer. Dark Knight doesn't.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Why?
Instead, Dark Knight is getting a trait that reduces the cooldown of Plunge by 5 seconds if you use Unmend before you use Plunge. So, you know, it's useful one time.
That is so dumb.
It's a straight decrease in damage potential, which further makes Dark Knight less desirable by parties who are aiming to clear content. It feels like Square-Enix, the company, like the dev team behind the game, is actively trying to dissuade people from playing certain jobs. Which I could see being done for one reason that only kind of makes sense. Right? And it only makes sense for Dark Knight. A fuckload of people are playing Dark Knight. Right? Like an absurd number of people are playing Dark Knight. So it could be that they're actively making the other 3 tanks look more desirable, so that way there's more class diversity. There's a way to do that isn't kneecapping the job.
Yeah, just make them all better.
Make them all more, like, look cooler, right? There's a lot of Gunbreakers. Gunbreaker looks cool. Not a lot of Paladins, because Paladin isn't fun.
Paladin is boring.
It's
Bang,
so
bang,
fucking
blade.
boring to play.
Paladin is just like the vanilla,
I hate
basic
leveling
coffee
Paladin.
girl.
But, like, it doesn't explain Scholar, because there's not a whole lot of Scholars. There's a shit ton of White Mages. There's a shit ton of Astrologians. Nobody plays Scholar already. Why are you making less people want to play Scholar? What's the point? Exactly, yeah. Like, why would you play Paladin over Gunbreaker?
I mean, yeah,
like,
Shield cool and all, but like,
yeah,
Paladin
Sword and Shield is
so
really cool, but
boring.
the act of playing Paladin is terrible.
I don't even know how to play Paladin.
It took 4 years for Paladin to get an AoE that did damage, and it took another 2 years for that AoE to have threat generation.
What?
So in A Realm Reborn, Paladin had 1 AoE. I mean, they had Circle of Scorn, but it was on a cooldown and it was a dot, so that doesn't count. They had 1 AoE. It was called Flash. Flash did 0 damage. It generated threat and would blind, but because it did 0 damage, it barely generated any threat. So you would have to flash 1,000 times to hold aggro on groups of enemies, right? That persisted through A Realm Reborn, through Heaven's Ward, into Stormblood, where Paladin finally got a new AoE. They got Eclipse, which did damage, but it didn't generate threat. It generated 0 enmity, so you couldn't use it as a tank until you already had threat, so you were still just hitting Flash a bunch of times. Then finally in Shadowbringer, they were like, we're going to get rid of Flash, and we're just going to make your AoEs generate threat because everything does. You can't lose threat now. So, like, clearly they don't listen to the community, because they have shown us time and time again that unless you're a warrior player or a dragoon player who's going to scream from the top of Mount Everest, they don't hear you, because those are the only 2 jobs that have ever been fixed with any sort of it, like with in any timely manner. It took years for Monk to get any sort of adjustments that were meaningful. It took years for Paladin. It took, like, Scholar's still hurting. People have been complaining about Scholar since Heaven's Ward, and they're still doing it.
Meanwhile, Gunbreaker over here is actually like getting an improvement where their 6 DPS combo is on 1 button now.
Oh my god!
It's like 2 buttons. You have like your first button and then the second button changes.
Separated between like the 2 different combos.
I think you have your.
Because you have the one that triggers from the first combo.
Yeah, continuation is still a separate button.
But still, like, that frees up,
that's
like,
huge.
2 other buttons. And especially when you're on controller, that's a pretty big deal, because I actually don't have anywhere to put anything else on my hotbar for Gunbreaker. Like, there's actually skills not on my hotbar that I probably should have as a tank, but I have nowhere to put them, because there's other specific Gunbreaker skills that I need when I go do the 80 content.
Yep. That's a good change. It's a change that doesn't add a new ability or a new trait or take anything away, but it's meaningful, right? It's a meaningful change to the class. I personally, I think that there should be an option in the settings menu to enable the PvP actions for primary combos, where it's a single button. Just from an accessibility standpoint, that should be a thing. They already exist. They're already in the game. There is a mod for the game that gives them to you. it's doable. It's not going to kill anybody. It's not going to break the servers. The dev team doesn't need to work that hard at it. Make a fucking setting, check the box, give it to the people who need it. Because there are people who have motor skill disabilities who significantly struggle to play this game.
You know, I also don't think they realize how many, like, yeah, they know how many console players you have versus like PC players, but they don't really know how many PC players play on controller versus mouse and keyboard. And when you have 20 different buttons, but you only have 10 slots to put those buttons, like, it really cuts down your ability on what you can do without then trying to figure out how to do macros to work on your controller and having to like switch between hotbars, which is very difficult to do on a controller, at least efficiently while you're in battle.
Yeah.
I assume it's awful. Like, it seems like just the controls on the controller in general are really hard to get used to.
It depends on what you're like. I enjoy it if I'm doing content that's not high stress.
The only thing controllers are good for in 14 is fishing. And you can argue with me all you want.
If you're fishing without a controller, you're doing it wrong.
Fishing and gathering and crafting are really the only controller-friendly things that you can do. Anything else, like with controllers, doing any sort of combat stuff, you're already hindered by the fact that the way that they've done the palette.
I don't even know how to do Fisher without it vibrating at me, telling me, "Hey, by the way, you hooked something."
I do dungeons. Like doing dungeons with a controller is fine.
I no, even then, like it's still difficult.
I mean, I played through 90% of Heavensward with a controller.
Oh sure, as what, tank or DPS?
Tank.
I did it as healer. I couldn't do it. I had
that makes sense.
Too much going on.
The switching is insane.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I really liked how they did it in Final Fantasy XI. Final Fantasy XI, my primary controller is a controller because the hotbars are macro palettes.
Yeah,
and you have basically the entire number row, and then the way that they do it is you slap the R2 or L2 depending on the macro palette you want to open, and then you select the one that you want to use.
Which is much more conducive to 11 because it's a slower paced game. You have more. You have a little bit more time.
Even then, like it would still be conducive to 14. They would just need to adjust a couple of things.
Sure, they have the ability to do that. They have the money, and the dev team is good at what they do. It's just there's a lot of things that they should be doing that they're not.
Yeah, it's because they're not the things that are going to make them money.
Well, I mean, I think it goes beyond that to the people that they ask aren't bringing it up because they don't want to rock the boat.
Well, yeah, that too.
Yeah. All right, so Jay in chat said, I'm going to complain about fairies more since hotbars were brought into it. So healer, I use a lot of my hotbar slots up. Yes, I use macros, but sometimes macros fuck up, lag happens, so I have res on my hotbar still. The fairies becoming just looks and adding the unique fairy skills as hotbar skills is so wasteful. Basically, some skills I still keep on my hotbar despite macros because things aren't always reliable. Well, the macro functions in this game are terrible.
Yeah, in 14 you can't rely on the macros. In 11 you had to buffer your macros with weights to account for the latency. But yeah, on hotbar constrained classes as it is, which Gunbreaker is a hotbar constrained. Dude, I literally Gunbreaker is the only class that I have now that I actually have like a hotbar that's full. Even Dragoon doesn't have a full hotbar.
I legitimately do not have certain abilities on my bar for Paladin and Gunbreaker because I don't know where, I don't have anywhere to put them where it works at all. Because I have abilities on there that don't do any, like when I will never need to use cover.
I don't have cover, and I'm missing some of my roll skills because skills that I would use if I played Paladin at level 80 are taking up where I put my roll skills. It's like I don't have Shirk on Paladin, so if I need to like do Diamond Extreme on Paladin and I had a Shirk onto the other tank, like good luck, buddy, but I can't do it.
Yeah.
Because I have nowhere to put it.
And it's like, I don't, like, why do I have cover? It's basically unusable. Shield Bash doesn't make any sense. Why is that there? But these abilities still exist. They're still going to exist, and they're adding more. There's a problem with clutter that they're just actively not addressing.
Yeah.
The only class that I have everything on my bar and then some is Dark Knight.
Dark Knight. Like, I even have and
Warrior,
Hotbar.
because it's the same buttons. I actually have fewer buttons on Warrior. Warrior has no buttons.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm actually gonna have to pop out here.
All right, man. Thanks for coming in and hanging out.
Yeah, man, this is fun. Like, it's definitely a lot of things that, you know, kind of I didn't realize, and it's pretty cool to like kind of like get more into like what the classes are and how different they are, and especially because like I haven't played them all, so it feels like, you know, once I get to that point, it's gonna feel a little less enticing to play certain classes.
Yeah, because some classes will do the same thing but better, and the leaks that came out really reinforce that. So that was that. If you made it to the end, thank you very much. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, maybe subscribe, leave a comment down below. I'd like to hear what all of you have to say. I would really like to do more stuff like this on any topic. So if there's anything that anybody wants to hear discussed or what have you, go ahead and let me know. Leave a comment down below. Do you want to catch my stream live where stuff like this happens? Go ahead over to twitch.tv/Bombokobo. I stream Monday through Friday, 6:30 Pacific. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'll catch you next time.